We have funding available and it is, it's projected to come back, but correct, if we make something that's so popular that we run out right away, we'll have to, keep a waiting list and or, whatever, but.
I think the balance is 229 or somewhere around there, 100,000, correct, but it's not outstanding, right? Half of it's outstanding, but.
There's no waiting list, let's put it that way, there's funding available.
To clarify though, this initiative is really proposing just the conceptual process of looking at the amount of options that could qualify for neighborhood loan. That's what the initiative is proposing, right?
Correct, conceptually, yes, but then ultimately, to adopt that concept and.
Exactly.
Right, yes. Yep,
And with that adoption might include considering different levels of funding.
correct.
And that was something, when I looked through these initiatives, it talks about review and then it jumps to the conclusion. When I would think the first, are we authorizing a review and we'll make the
Yes.
decision once
We have the
So
review.
there's these, they're separate.
Trustee Amenta.
I just have a procedural question. I know Rebecca's going to come back. Is she going to come back with a prioritization for each department?
Comprehensively of what, from my understanding, and Rebecca correct me, from our discussion, it was more of all departments put in requests, and as the village manager, at the head of the administration, what is your view department-wide? I mean, village-wide, like what is the priority? What are we already doing that has to continue, and what are the things that are new that take precedent, in your opinion, as the administrator?
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, it would help me to know of these things, what Bart feels is the most important, just like when we talk about planning commission, like what is, so I'm not sure if we're going to get that.
And my intention is to get that feedback from Bart, and have that also be supportive, and I would ask each department to take a look at that. In addition,
By Monday.
Monday?
right, to give a concept of what we're looking at.
But you also provide, it won't be just committee by committee, is what I think trustee Met is asking, or maybe committee by committee, or my understanding was it's going to be village-wide. Like, I mean, the committees have already proposed it, they could rank them, but in general, what is the administration feeling that correct, collectively, we should be notified of the priorities? Like, what's the feeler that?
And what feasibly we think we can get, at this point in time, given, the initiatives that we have.
Well, yeah, because some departments just submitted like one or two, and Bart submitted a lot. And they're really good ideas.
Great idea.
Yeah, it's like,
Right?
it makes it a little, like, if there's only two, we kind of know, okay, these are what they really feel are important and want to do. But if there's, 5 or 6, then I'd like to know, this is what you think is, you'd really like to hear.
Should I just provide a follow-up on that? Because it's one of the things that we want, and that's why we're talking about it today. We want to with the other committees, because if something isn't selected right away, it's not to say that people don't believe that that's not a good thing that maybe we should do. But we're also saying that there are competing resources and staff resources also provided to all these other groups, and we're just only so many. So if maybe there's one initiative that a committee follows through with, and they finish it in the year, then we can go back to look at this list and say, okay, now what makes most sense, given what we know from our prioritization with that committee, so that we can be working towards common goals.
Or nothing.
Or nothing, right? Right, thank you for keeping me reminded of that.
Yeah, great point of clarification, and as part of the next steps, that's something we can identify, what are next steps necessary for the meeting on 6/18, given the discussion that will take place. So definitely noted, and that's already in progress as I understand it. Okay, we're at time, but I want to just know, are there any other questions for planning development? Because I'll take a pause there and add 3 minutes. Other questions?
I have one. For the initiate annual code review, okay, so this is very similar to the make sure that they have the right statutory. So it's this, in my opinion, if those were combined, is that something that you see as being compatible?
It could be compatible. The intention of this would be, I would say on a weekly, monthly basis, we get someone that says, why can't we revise the fence code, why can't we do this? I've got a master list, in my department. My intention with that would be, to have an annual review process where I'd come to the board and say, these are the 12 things that have come to us. Please, let me know if they're worth working on, and if they are, I'd bring them back to you. So it's kind of an annual review thing. I'm not sure if, if Sarah's was like 1 in 10 years or how that works, but my intention with this one would be an annual review from my department's perspective of building code and zoning code, things that pop up through the year. We'll just give a clear process of, we maintain the list, we bring it to you at a certain time, you give me direction as to which ones to work on and bring them back as I have them developed. So I think mine's an annual process. That one might be a larger process, but in the initial stage, they can be together, obviously, for sure.
We're at time for planning and development. Moving on to parks, tab 11. Moving on to oh, great. Questions for parks on initiatives submitted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm hoping that trustees have some questions, and the reason I state that is we haven't funded parks in, I think it's 1 or 2 years, just because of other priorities in the village, and so it really would, during our discussions over the next few meetings, we probably need to make it, we really need to give some thought on what we would like the Parks Department or committee to be working on. If it's not one of these initiatives because maybe of cost concerns, is there something else that's available or that's a need for the village? I have a question, well, for trustee Leslie, Warren.
I'll just answer the both. So I have a question on the permanent permit process. It's like a tongue twister for Atwater Beach. I'm wondering if, in addition to the write-up you gave us here, we'd also be developing a process by which we selected which types of vendors would be eligible to go down there. This talks a lot about running on chairs and also food and beverage. I almost feel like there needs to be an overarching policy put around that, and I'm wondering if this contemplates that policy.
All right, so the question you're asking me is?
Are we developing a policy as well? Does this include developing the
Sure,
policy?
we have to decide first what we would want on the beach. So the Parks Commission has some very strong ideas about limited number of things.
Okay.
And so we're not coming to any kind of a Bradford Beach concept. The things that would be coming up, and first of all, there isn't a long line of vendors asking to put things on the beach. It's not an easily accessible spot. However, there are some things we would like, such as, some of the young people have expressed to us they'd like paddle boards and kayaks. And some of the adults would like more umbrellas on the sand and chairs they didn't have to lug down themselves. So we met last night and we're brainstorming quite a number of ideas along that would encourage. The cost would be staff time. We're not proposing that we buy these materials. Would be staff time and legal time to write up the documentation and to review the RFPs, etc. So it's a matter of putting staff time into doing this. We were not talking about buying paddleboards and umbrellas. And then also, possibly the vendor would have to provide the person to oversee the materials and the locks and all the rest of it, to lock in materials. And
So the question was around policy. Is that part of this initiative?
Yes, it sounds like it's developing a policy around which vendors are down there and what the criteria is.
Okay. Thank you. Other question?
Did you have clarification?
Yeah.
Tyler?
If you want it.
We do.
Sorry, Tyler.
Okay.
I didn't
So
mean to
like
overlook you.
a perfect example, like, if a, community wants paddleboards, they go out for an RFP where people provide proposals for, right? So that's one of the things that the Parks Commission is working on, is what are the services? And then staff would, once that list is finalized, staff would then put together a RFP for those proposals. And if they if someone wants to provide any of those services, they would have to respond to the RFP. They still have to go through the permitting process that we have outlined in the code.
I think what trustee Warren was asking, if I'm going to paraphrase, I had the same question. Rather than delegating that down to decisions one by one coming forward, is there a way that the parks, I don't know if it's in here, but that develops that list of here's what we'd like to see overall in the village, and having us approve that
Sure.
before we go and item by item start our.
So let me, Tyler, let me let you answer this question.
Okay.
We're more than glad to ask for staff time to help us develop ordinances that you would approve for the development of services at the beach. But this request is, so the initiative would be, hey, wouldn't it be fun to have things at the beach? We would need an ordinance to cover that. We would need RFPs. This is staff time. And so we can't do that without a commitment of staff time for that initiative. So if you're not interested in that, don't give us any staff time. If you're interested in it, give us staff time.
In
If
the
you
end, though,
can't
you
do
would
any
see the
more-
RFP.
Yeah.
And then you, if there was a service that you disagreed, I guess you would be able to provide feedback at that time.
I think she's asking for policy.
You're also preparing a draft contract that lays out the terms and the length of the idea that lay out some of the issues you got to address in the bid.
Right.
You had a question? Clarification?
I mean, we granted a permit to surf, whatever, the surfing place. So we must have a policy and a permit. We couldn't have granted a permit if we didn't have a permit process.
Clarification, Tyler, correct me, we have an ordinance that says we can permit businesses to come and utilize it. We didn't have a fee, so then we set the fee, it was a low fee, $10 a day, and we were gonna revisit that. But again, so that was the direction that
It's
staff
another
was
item the
taking.
Parks Commission would be reviewing in this process.
Okay. And so I just want to take it back, because I've heard now from two others. Before you would send out RFPs, just clarification, you would be bringing to us your thoughts of the overall plan for the beach.
Parks Commission would bring their recommendation.
Okay, sounds great. Does that clarify for you, trustee Menta? Yes. You sure? Okay. Trustee Carpenter and then McKay.
So about Triangle Park, I just want to clarify, Triangle Park is on the northwest side.
Olive Street?
Yeah, Olive, yeah, okay. And then, so we have, $2,000 is what it is in there right now, but there's no idea of what the future capital cost would be for
We've
that.
actually had a lengthy discussions when our Parks Commission plans were drawn, and then the update of the plans a couple of years ago, and brought some of them with me. And in those plans, it was the feeling that there was a very, very nice piece of property that could be developed with very minimal playscape things to open up and get control of the weeds and control the weed trees. That's it. It was a very minimalist, but to sort of reclaim it as a park and a place to sit with shade. That's about as far as we've gone.
Thank you.
So the clarification on that is, so this initiative would be funding an exploration to see what it would cost to actually execute a plan. We'd have to have a plan to look at first and then decide whether to fund it.
Right.
And then canoe launch, is there, didn't we do something kind of temporary for canoe launch? And how sustainable is that?
Well, it's not a canoe launch, so it's an opening. Mike can speak to it more than I can. It's so that you could walk down and walk in with your kayak or canoe or paddleboard, you know, with shoes on or whatever you want. A canoe launch would be a little bit more substantial.
And then not erosion and traffic and all
All we did was regrading.
Yeah.
that.
There's
That's
no,
what I thought.
yeah, there's no actual structure there. This would actually put a structure there for people to walk out on.
Right, so that grading would have to be maintained over time.
Trustee
I
Menta?
know the Parks Commission looked at Triangle Park last year, the year before, and there was some concern from the neighbors, and I don't recall how that all shook out in the end.
So the question is, would we contact the neighbors? Yes, we would.
No, the question is, how did that, the last time this came around, and it was discussed by the Parks Commission, so what was the conclusion of that?
I think some neighbors,
Discussion.
as I remember it, and I'd have to go back and look at the minutes, that neighbors came to the meeting and we talked with them and we assured them that we would not do anything without including them in the discussion.
We're at time for parks. Again, if we're making up time, we have time at the end, we can ask additional questions. if there's really Moving on to, and I'm not checking my phone and text, just so you guys know I'm actually taking time. So it does look like, because I've been checking my phone. Moving on to police departments, and question, and that's tab number 15. In uniform. There were two specific initiatives submitted. Once we get there, and then we can start with questions, clarification questions again on what's listed in the initiative, in the submitted